I'm in Charlcombe, near Bath. I'm only a few miles away from where I was on the last video, and I have to say I nearly killed myself climbing up the hill. It is a really steep hill. I'm really tired. I'm not going back down again. I was going to weave in and out following a nice route that will show you loads of anglo-saxon landmarks, because I know you'd be thrilled to see them, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stick to the ridge, and when it's time to go home, I'm just going to climb down to the car. But I'm no longer 21. But Charlcombe means Ceorlacumbe in Old English, and there is a Saxon charter, and it means the valley of the Churls. And a churl is the lowest rank of free man. So they're not slaves, they're not servants. Well, they are servants in a way. It is only later on that churlish means vulgar. I'm sure it meant vulgar at the time, but you know, these are free people, proud, and you know, and the rest of it. But so I'm circling Bath, looking at the Anglo-Saxon charters, and for me, the great interest in pretty much, now I have several interests. One, I am interested in the landscape, including recent traditions. I'm interested in what people call things now and how they respond to the landscape now, what farmers call their fields and all the rest of it. And very often they go back to the Middle Ages. But I'm also interested in the ancient world, that is the pre-English world, the world of Iron Age hill forts and Roman baths and so on, Roman roads. And I'm also interested in the English language, English traditions, and so on. But my real love is trying to look at the evidence that we have remaining and see if it gives us some insight into the really ancient world. So this is Charlcombe, and on its own it might not be that interesting. You know, it shows us a social context, that there are classes in society, and certain classes might live separately from other classes. And on its own it might not be all that interesting, it might be just an accident of fate. But at the bottom of the hill, just down there, you know, in the same sort of economic area is Walcot. And Walcot does mean, well, it means one of two things. It's Welsh, and that means either serf, slave, unfree person, or it means Welsh, and it's very, very hard to see between the two of them. But whether you're Welsh or Welsh in an English landscape, or you are an unfree slave, serf, what we're seeing here is two different settlements with two different social classes. Evident in the landscape in the sense of names, and those names are carried down for over 1,000 years. And Walcot's very posh today, but it wasn't very posh. Probably wasn't. Who knows? I mean, but there is a Saxon charter that talks of a Ynet, which is a special kind of servant, a sort of privileged servant of the king. And he was Welsh, so it doesn't necessarily mean that the Welsh were of low status. You know, it's in the same way you can have high status servants, in the same way that the kings, you know, today the king has butlers that are of interest, that are well educated and have a certain amount of influence. You know, that chap Paul Burrell who writes his books about Princess Diana and so on. So it may not tell us much, but it tells us something, something useful about the deep past. So along there is, well, Up there is Ravenscombe House, and in Old English it was 1,000 years ago called Charlcombe, which means Raven's Combe. And there is a stream that goes down it. In the Charter of Charlcombe it is called Charlcombe, which means the Raven Spring. And down there is Woolly, and Woolly means it's something like Willia, and it means the lee, the field of the springs. So these could be the springs of which it is the field of, but it is along the bottom of the valley, going all the way down there, all the way to the Avon is the Lamb Brook, and in Old English that was Lambrock, so it's still the same 1,000 years later, and Lambrock means either lamb. Lambrock means either lamb or loam, so it's the river of loam, or baby sheep. That is Swainswick, and Swainswick, there is no swain in Old English, but perhaps it is swine, that is pigs, or swain, the Anglo-Danish for young man, but it would need to be a late date where Anglo-Danish words have made their way into English. So it wouldn't be, with a name like Wick tends to be offshoots of villages. So Swainswick would be the offshoot of the pig offshoot village, or the young men offshoot village. So that tends to be a later date anyway. So this is Lansdowne, and Lansdowne in the Charter of Charlcombe and other charters is Lantes Dune, which means it's a dialect word. Lantes, which means long. So it is the long down, the long hill. Next to me is the village of Langridge, which has retained its old English spelling, which means long ridge. But here we're just entering, or we're on top of Aethelmund's Hula, Aethelmund's Hill. And Aethelmund is probably a corruption, well, according to the landscape website, is probably a corruption of Aethelmund. It is Aethelmund's Hill, and that is a noble name. Athel means nobility. So we have the slaves or Welsh of Walcot, we have the Churls of Charlcombe, and now we have nobility, the nobility of Aethelmund. If you like this video, please watch this one next. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. Ta-ra for now.